David, the sheriff calls it a moral issue. He says the inappropriate relationships did not damage evidence in the cases, but one defense attorney involved says it created bias. Detective Tim Deal and Lieutenant Freddie Roden were with the Catoosa County Sheriff's Office for more than 15 years. They investigated child crimes.
I can't look a victim in the eye if I assign one of them to that case and say, you know, we're going forward with our best foot forward, because we now have that hurdle to have to overcome.
Internal affairs documents obtained by Channel 3 show Detective Deal started a relationship with a female witness after a trial ended in 2016. That woman's husband told the sheriff's office the detective harassed him several times with a spoofed number, and that Deal talked about pending criminal cases. The DA's office concluded the relationship was not illegal, but was morally wrong.
This can now bring about questions about their morality that a defense attorney could bring up that could very well put a doubt in a juror's mind.
The issues that led to this detective's departure from the sheriff's department have everything to do with bias in the investigation.
Important evidence is missing in a criminal investigation against the brother of a state representative. The Catoosa County Sheriff's Office arrested Wesley Gage Weldon February 13th after finding meth inside his house. Investigators took pictures of the drugs at the house, but now they say they can't find the camera. 4 days later, an investigator returned to the home looking for the device, but came out empty-handed. Weldon is the brother of Representative Tom Weldon. In the meantime, Wesley remains in jail.
Count number 2, not guilty. Count number 3, not guilty. Count number 4, not guilty. Count number 21, not guilty. Count number 22, not guilty. This 11th day of May 2010, signed Dick Prius Corporate.
Frankly, we're a little shocked.
A Catoosa County Sheriff's deputy has been arrested. Joshua Carlton Wilson was booked into jail after an acquaintance called 911 to say Wilson stole drugs. He's been charged with possession of hydrocodone and tramadol, plus violating the oath of a public officer. He's been placed on unpaid leave from his job at the sheriff's office.
Poston sent a similar letter to Catoosa Sheriff Gary Sisk. In the letter, he asks Sheriff Sisk to request a GBI investigation of Agent Hillman's interactions with local officers. Sisk, seen here, declined to get the GBI involved, saying the matters involving Agent Hillman do not concern his department.
I think what's going to happen, people are going to really realize is that, you know, these things still occur. A person can be slapped in the face, assaulted on video, and called a racial slur and get away with it. A person can be, you know, handcuffed in the court of law when trying to file charges for assault, you know, because they're connected in that county. And when you're connected in that county, that just puts a damper on the entire justice system. And, you know, somebody like myself who grew up always believing in the justice system now believes that the justice system is now just a barter tool. It's something that can be traded based on who you know, based on your social economics, based on your influence with people within the justice system. And people outside need to say, well, wait a minute, that's not right. Fair game of any place should happen in the court of law.
So how do we change that?
Well, you expose it, you talk about it, you support, you read the book. You do those type of things. One of the things that I'm doing with the book to help expose it is to start an investigative fund.
I invite anybody to look at the case file. I mean, some of the names might change their minds after the read, because I was satisfied that morning after they said they weren't going to pursue that they had done all they could do until I looked at the case file.
A case file Lookout Mountain District Attorney General Buzz Franklin reviewed and refused to pursue, much less present to a grand jury to consider a possible indictment.
New information has come to light in the case of an FBI agent accused of driving after drinking and receiving special treatment.
And we're talking about Agent Ken Hillman, who was the leading successful Northwest Georgia Crimes Against Child Unit. News Channel 9's John Madewell has been following the story.
A formal complaint has now been filed in the Catoosa County Sheriff's race. Next week's Republican runoff is between Larry Black and Gary Sisk. Now, Black says that Sisk violated a sheriff's office policy by running a commercial featuring current Sheriff Phil Summers and a Catoosa County patrol car and sheriff's badge. Black's campaign says it has been informed and the ad will now be pulled from
like another country. Because the politics around this place, if they get it in for you, look out.
One detective realized the department's camera documenting the drug evidence was mistakenly left behind. The investigator went back 4 days later and did not find it. In this additional report filed yesterday, even after getting a search warrant, still nothing turned up. Weldon is now charged with theft. The Catoosa County Sheriff did not agree to talk to us on camera about It's a mistake that does not have an explanation. Catoosa County Sheriff's deputies are searching for missing evidence in the case of this man, Wesley Gage Weldon. These arrest reports tell us deputies went to serve Weldon with the court order on February 13th. When they went inside this house on Potts Road, they found containers of crystal meth, devices used to smoke it, plus scales and needles. Deputies took him to the jail for having and making meth, but one detective realized the department's camera documenting the drug evidence was mistakenly left behind. The investigator went back 4 days later and did not find
Wofford County Alzheimer patient Ronald Westbrook. He was shot and killed outside a home last November, and they have little good to say about District Attorney Buzz.
To be a candidate for Catoosa County Sheriff. Like many other residents of Catoosa County, I chose to make this my home. I am deeply concerned with law enforcement in Catoosa County, which is one of the reasons I chose to run for sheriff. Over the past 4 months, I've talked with many of my fellow residents who believe it is time for a change in Catoosa County.
Catoosa County's new manager, Jim Walker Jr., faced a sexual harassment investigation 4 months ago. Walker, who was the manager of Henry County, Georgia, was accused of touching a female employee inappropriately and making inappropriate comments. He was also accused of general untruthfulness and of intimidating witnesses. Walker denied the allegations but stepped down. He says the investigation was a hatchet job motivated by politics, not facts. A woman accused of killing a stranger to steal her baby believes the state put a spy in jail with her. Catherine Gowen's attorneys believe Sasha Nicole Van Pelt asked Gowen's about the case to give information to the police or prosecutors. District Attorney Buzz Franklin says Van Pelt has denied working with any law enforcement. Van Pelt was arrested on a shoplifting charge May 1st and booked out of jail May 8th.
On March 22nd, Silcox decided to terminate Police Chief David Eubanks and Public Works Director Jeff Long, only minutes after being appointed.
The mayor said, Harold said, would you come on board as the city manager for a while? Well, for that, the city manager leave. I didn't know what the idea. And I said, well, yeah, if the city needs me to do something, I'll step in.
The two former employees appealed for their jobs.
The interim city manager, Harold Silcox, was not validly empowered on March 22nd to fire anyone. He fired them literally as his first acts after being appointed interim city manager.
McCracken Poston is representing Long and Eubanks in the lawsuit. He tells us that Ron Goulart, the outgoing city manager, announced a resignation on March 22nd, but it wasn't official until 3 days later.
Personnel ordinance, chapter 8.
While city councilmen decided to uphold the termination of both employees, Long and Eubanks' attorney now wants to take the case to court.
They were done wrong. They're asking to be reinstated, have back pay, And I think that's what anybody would want.
Or a candidate for judicial election shall not publicly endorse a candidate for
attempts to reach Michael Caldwell. He returned our calls, claiming he put the sign on Giglio's building.
I've had permission everywhere except the building. Like I said, that was confusion. That was my fault.
As for the sign outside House's home,
I positioned it more in their yard, and it might have just gotten during mowing. It might have gotten moved.
but the signs may not be the only issue. House and Giglio have used their Facebook pages to like the pages of political candidates in local races. The JQC tells Channel 3 that could also count as an endorsement or violation. It's all a little frustrating for Caldwell's competitor.
It is kind of disappointing to know that something like that's happening, but I'm just trying to run my race and trying to get my story out there, and it could sway voters here or there.
We took a copy of the Code of Conduct when we paid a visit to Judge Brian House's home to ask about the signs. He changed his story 3 times.
I didn't put it there.
You didn't put it there? Who put it there?
I guess Mr. Caldwell did. He works for him. He put the sign there.
Okay, so Michael's going to put the sign
talk to
there?
him.
So I'll call Michael, and you think he'll tell me that he put that sign there?
I have no idea who put it up there.
He then told us the sign was on his neighbor's property.
I didn't put it there. I assumed Anthony had put it there.
I talked to Judge House's neighbor, who tells us that's not his sign. He says it belongs to Judge House, and he didn't ask before he put it there. When we returned to the property 24 hours later, the sign was gone. It was a strange turn of events at a specifically called meeting in Fort Oglethorpe. The city council began with a series of closed executive sessions, but with every one of those meetings, it seemed officials were resigning and being replaced.
Due to circumstances beyond my control, I herein respectfully submit my resignation as city manager of the city of Fort Oglethorpe.
The council members needed to find a new city manager quickly.
We must, at this point in time, an interim city manager so we can carry on the function of city government.
That's when they nominated Harold Silcox as the interim city manager. He previously served on the city council for 12 years. But Goulart, along with a few other councilmen we talked with, suspected foul play.
It's pretty much resign or be terminated.
We asked Mayor Lynn Long if Goulart was given an ultimatum, although he didn't directly answer our question. Can I ask you whether you wanted him to stay or not?
You know, that's, I like Ron Goulart, so, you know.
But you're smiling, sir. I'm asking if you wanted him to stay. Did you want him to stay on this board?
I always smile.
As one city manager reluctantly walked away, another started getting comfortable in his new office. Less than 10 minutes on the job, Silcox began firing personnel, including the public works director and the chief of police. And he wasn't the only one. After a busy day of a complete personnel shakeup, the new city manager was ready to go home.
Are you done for the day?
Yes, ma'am.
You felt good about the day?
But 4th Ward Council member Charles Sharrock is facing his 3rd claim of sexual harassment, only 10 months into his 2nd term.
We've learned the claim comes out of an encounter Councilman Sharrock had with a woman officer at Fort Oglethorpe Police Headquarters October 9th. Allegations of unwanted physical contact, similar to allegations that Councilman Sharrock faced both in 2008 and 9.
The city of Fort Oglethorpe has been paying ousted City Councilman Charles Sharrock for almost a year. Good afternoon, I'm Calvin Sneed.
And I'm Latricia Thomas. Last year, the council booted Sharrock on claims from 3 women that he sexually harassed.
All red flags, family members say. However, their concerns fell on deaf ears as suicide was ultimately listed on the initial report.
In the very beginning, this case was assigned to a very inexperienced patrol officer. Our department had no detectives at the time. For some reason, there was no autopsy performed.
So case closed, right? Well, it was for several years until the mid-'80s when a new investigator dove a little deeper into the case and found a suspect that had one jaw-dropping story to tell, a story that involved several teenagers.
Befriended Mr. Anderson, talked him into getting into their van to, I believe, go to a party. And
that ride, police now say, ended here at this national park, where the suspect describes in detail how Anderson was stoned, hung, and then propped up against his girlfriend's house.
What would you think if somebody confessed, and would you not think that's good enough?
Well, police say that confession was not good enough because the suspect was deemed mentally incompetent. He's now refusing to talk. And evidence to back his claim was and still is a big problem.
We have absolutely no physical evidence.
And that's in part because the rope that was found on Jody was actually tampered with and taken home by one of the officers at the time.
Who used it on camping trips. Hurts me to say that.
A botched police case and back to square one. Now this new police force